Hello, pod smashers of the internet, and welcome to another episode of
A bit pod smash,
Where Gaming Goes to Grab a Beer. We are your hosts.
Penguin and Termite. I am Penguin.
I am Termite, and we are a weekly video game podcast smashing together ideas that you care about with video games.
That's right. And this one, we needed a quick one for reasons that I will discuss. So we are doing a Wikipedia, one of our series on Wikipedia's best video games list ever, where we go through Wikipedia's list of video games considered the best, which we'll link off to. If you want to follow along, if you can, please don't pull it up on your phone while driving or anything silly like that, or if you're running on the treadmill, whatever you do, you listeners do while you are listening to us. If you're just sitting somewhere, though, or unable to, then by all means, you can follow along and just have that prepared for when we get started. But we'll talk about why we go through this list and what this kind of episode entails, and we'll do that. But first, we are where gaming goes to grab a beer. So what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking Untitled Art from Wisconsin's Imperial Stout. It's called Double Chocolate Fudgy Brownie Stout. And it is an Imperial Stout with cacao nibs, vanilla beans, and milk sugar. And it's left over from a beer that was left at my house after my big 4th of July thing. And I've never had this before. And it is like drinking a double chocolate fudge brownie.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
Like, that's it. Like, that's all I taste is a double chocolate fudge brownie. It might as well just be like cake batter in a glass. It's that
Nice.
thick. It's that sweet. And apparently it's pretty boozy at 11%. So tonight should get lit.
And lit. Well, I got a pretty good one, too. I am drinking the beer that you gave me for a very special occasion.
Yes.
That, again, we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Everybody
So
knows.
I saved it. You're right. I saved it for I drank one in the hospital, and then I drank one, or saved one for this moment. And so I have a Mas Agave Iglesias from Founders Brewery, lime flavored, and it is basically the margarita version of a beer. It's amazing. It's got everything that margarita has in it. It's got agave, nectar. It's got fermented agave. It's got salt, I believe they said, and lime, and I don't have the glass in front of me, so I poured it into a glass so I could see what it looks like. It looks like honey. Like, it looks like the color of honey. It's beautiful. And
gorgeous.
And then it's also, on top of all that, it's aged in tequila barrels, so it is pretty much a tequila in beer form.
Margarita.
Sorry, margarita. That's what I'm trying to say. Did I say tequila this whole time?
I don't know. I only heard it once.
Okay. All right. Well, it's a margarita in beer form, and I mean, that's the best way to describe it. Like, you still get the beer, like kind of like a wheat beer base, but it tastes very strongly of all the flavors you'd expect from a margarita.
Nice. Yeah, I've had it before. It's really, really good. It's really sweet and tangy, and I love it. Like you said, it's the margarita in beer form.
But it's also like 10% alcohol. So.
Yep.
Okay, so for our little banter section today, I obviously want to talk about the birth of my daughter.
What? You have another kid?
I do.
When did that
happen?
How does that work?
9 months ago. A little over 9 months ago.
Neat.
How does that work? Well, I have a book, and we can go through it sometime.
Okay, cool.
So, anyways, so that happened, and this is the first time we're recording after that. So,
congratulations.
Thank you. It was a good thing.
Cheers to that. If you were in person, we would tink, but we're not.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So there are some good reasons we recorded ahead of time. But anyway, so she was born on August 1st. She's beautiful. She's sleeping, which is awesome. She was heavier than my son, but not by much. She's only about a little bit under a pound heavier than my son was when he was born, and she was 4 weeks late. Not 4 weeks late. She was 4 weeks more developed than he was. So she was a week late, and he was 3 weeks early. So I have some funny little anecdotes to share in relation as it relates to the podcast. So number one, so my room is now, my room where I used to record, my office, is now occupied with a pack and play and a small little nook for baby rocking chair. Bottom line is, baby sleeps in there. So at 9 o'clock or so when we're recording this, I have had to set up an alternative. The only place I can really record is the living room where my PlayStation 5 is, but it's a fairly sizable room with high ceilings, and I was worried about echo. So in order to mitigate the echo, I literally have like a nugget couch tent I'm like sitting on my couch with like a foldable nugget piece. If you guys don't know what a nugget couch is, you should look it up. It's like a couch that comes in pieces for your
Sponsor
kids
us,
to like.
please.
But you're right, for your kids to like play in. They can build little forts out of it. So I'm doing that. I've built a little nugget fort for myself in order to help soak up some of the sound, so there's not as much of an echo. And so that's a funny thing that I've had to do. And then the other thing that, you know, obviously it affected our ability to do like live recordings and stuff like that. So there's something else I'm blanking on. Like now I'm blanking on my two anecdotes because we had a little technical difficulty. But anyways, yeah, my baby's here. The beer obviously that I was referring to, you got me for that as a celebration, a celebratory beer. And it was
There's actually a little bit more to that story than
I want to hear that.
On.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
So when I was in the hospital with my second son, Jude, it just so happened that co-opetition Matt, friend of the show, and we had him on the show, had their baby, his wife had their baby the day after. And so we were both in the hospital. And I was introduced to this beer by a friend, Kevin, who's also interviewed on our show.
Yeah.
prior to any of this happening. And he, Matt, happened to have the same beer in his room and offered some to share with me. So we bonded over the birth of my second child, his first child, and over that beer. And I was like, let me pay this forward. And the funny story behind all of that was when you had said, hey, celebratory drink, I was already on that train of thought. And we offered to bring you dinner. So we went. We were all sitting at dinner when we were making all of these plans. So my family had wrapped up our meal, and we were left to go to to pick up your food that you had wanted. And next to it is an ABC store, but it was on a Sunday, and they closed early. And I was like, dang it! All of my cool thoughts were thwarted right here. It's done, and I was bummed. So I was like, well, maybe we can go to Total Wine and look around. So I wandered around Total Wine and I saw this beer and I was like, yes,
that's it.
It has the sentimental story behind it.
Yep.
It's absolutely delicious. You're going to love it. I didn't know if you had had it before. And now your child has christened with the same beer that myself and Matt's child.
Now I have to close the loop because our friend Matt is also having a baby soon.
Yes, you got to go get him one.
So I'll have to get him one and bring him one. That's perfect. Yep. I remember the other anecdote I was going to share, and that is my family is with us this week, which is why we couldn't record a news episode because they were here pretty much up during the time. Like they were leaving right. Like they left 10 minutes after we would have started our live show, our news show. And my wife was sleeping and I had a baby in my arms. So I was like, there's no way I can do a live show, even a late one today. But it was funny because, you know, I had given you that heads up because I anticipated that. And you posted on social media saying, so this would have been, you know, a week ago for the listeners. And you posted on social media and said, what did you say? Oh, I think you worded it fine. Ultimately, you said something like, you know, the complications of a newborn child and visiting family members are preventing us from recording a live episode tonight. And my sisters ended up seeing that, I guess, like because they had, you know, they followed the show. They gave us the like on social media when we started the show, and so my sister gave me a hard time saying, why'd you call it? Because she doesn't know who posted it, so she thought I posted it and said, why'd you say your family is so complicated? You have a complicated family? And I was like, oh no, that was Termite. He's throwing shade on my family.
That was not true at all. I should have put schedule complications. That's all I would have required to change the tone.
Well, no, I think
word.
most people got it. My sisters were just giving a hard time, so I told them I would give you a hard time in turn and be like, "Why you call my family complicated, Termite?
Your family is complicated.
They're insanely complicated." Exactly. So that was pretty funny. That was the anecdote I wanted to share. Nice. That I'd forgotten. So, yep, new baby. It's going okay so far, but we've also had help for like 2 weeks. Almost, you know, basically the first 2 weeks of my paternity leave, we've had, you know, Macy's mom was here. My wife's mom was here for the first week, pretty much all the way up till Friday. She was born on Sunday, so from like that Sunday to Friday, you know, minus the 2 days we were in the hospital. But she was here during that too to watch my son. So basically, she was here the first week, and then this week, being week 2, my family's here, as I mentioned. So like, I guess the real test will be see how far we've come in a week. And but like I said, she's sleeping great. She's already ahead of where my son was at this point in time.
All right.
And so
second
it's going
kids,
okay.
man. There's something about it.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, it's just, again, it's just another. It's complicated dealing with 2 kids. So we're working through that. But it's been great. We've had a lot of support, so and we will continue to have a lot of support. So we're not, it takes a village, I guess, all that good stuff.
Oh yeah.
But so, oh man, but I'm ready to talk about Wikipedia stuff. So why don't we go ahead and move on? Raising our second kids is one of our favorite things, but
doing this podcast is our favorite thing.
Doing this podcast is our favorite thing.
Favorite things. A segment of our show where we just share with you something that we're digging. Something as deep and meaningful as an interaction with a beloved family member or long-lost friend, or as shallow as the perfectly not melted Reese's Peanut Butter Cup you may have had this week.
Perfectly not melted?
Yeah.
You want, just a little bit of melt, though, so it's soft.
That's why I said perfectly not melted.
Or frozen. That's... a frozen
also
one
valid.
is also very good.
See,
yeah.
this is it's a subjective thing. Perfectly not melted. Because everyone can agree that a melted Reese's Peanut Butter Cup is trash.
It will take your favorite thing. It could be your favorite thing 1 second, and then all it takes is 5 minutes in your pocket to turn it into the worst part of your day. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that. So I guess, obviously my favorite thing is my daughter. She's beautiful and adorable, and I love her. But aside from, if you have the means and desire to have kids, by all means, have kids. They're great. But I have a tangible takeaway too. I have another little favorite thing. It's been hard because there are people have been showering me with beer. I've been treating myself to. I got a really nice beer from Red Dragon, and I treated myself to a disposable vape pen. I've been enjoying that too as sort of an indulgence. But those are still not my favorite thing compared to this one thing that happened today. Again, I've been harping on it, and this will be the last time I bring it up, but my family's visiting, and my mom used to make this dessert for us when we were kids that she called scotcheroos.
Okay.
I don't know what they're actually called, but they're basically Reese's treats, but with peanut butter as the bonding agent instead of marshmallow, and then they're topped with a hardened, a cooled layer of a mix between chocolate chips and butterscotch chips. So it's a chocolate, butterscotch, peanut butter Reese's treat. And
Reese's treat or Rice Krispie
No, I'm sorry,
treat?
Rice Krispie treat. That's what I meant. Sorry,
okay.
Gosh, I'm
you are
sleep deprived, slightly sleep deprived.
Yes.
Out of my head.
Yep.
Anyway, so yes, Rice Krispie treat with peanut butter and chocolate. Those are my favorite combinations in the world. Is chocolate and peanut butter, and then the crunchy Rice Krispie and the little bit of butterscotch sweetness. So my mom made those today, and oh my gosh, I am probably they said that if they come tomorrow, because they're staying for the week in an Airbnb, if they come tomorrow and the scotcheroos are gone, I said, well, blame it on the person who left it on the oven, because then one of the dogs probably got it. But the reality is, no, it's probably going to be me. I'm probably going to eat them all tonight. They're so good. And it's just childhood. And it's so simple to make. They're really easy to make, and they don't require any baking, really. You just have to melt the chocolate and then let it cool. It's so good.
Sounds amazing.
So scotcheroos, if y'all want the recipe, I'll give it your way. I have it somewhere.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Newborn baby time is so fun.
It is. You really get a lot. And they just sleep so much. It'll be more complicated when she's running around and getting into stuff like my son is. But in the meantime, she's just sleeping 95% of the day. She's got 5% wake time. It's ridiculous. So it's great. Good stuff.
My favorite thing is a video game, actually. I finished up Uncharted: The Golden Abyss on the Vita this weekend. And when I first started it up, I knew it was developed by Sony Bend, who made Days Gone. And I knew it was a Vita title, of course, being mobile or portable or whatever. I didn't expect a full-blown Uncharted game. So much so because of the context set by even the remastered collection that came out on PS4 of Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. The developers said, we didn't include Golden Abyss because it didn't really quite fit. And that was my perception of the game. So I was like, okay, well, it's an Uncharted game. It's probably going to be small or something different or whatever. But no, it's a full-blown on, straight up. It might as well be Uncharted 0.5 or Uncharted 0 because it happens before the first game. And it's a full story. And it's amazing. And I enjoyed all of it. And I finished it on hard. I got a bunch of trophies. I got all the collectibles. And it was super fun, super engaging. And unfortunately, other than Nathan Drake and Sully, all of the characters in that game are never mentioned in any of the Uncharted games at all. I did the research, except for one Post-it note on a box in Uncharted 4 in an attic that says, send to, and I forget her name, I think it's Marissa, and that is Chase. She's the female kind of back in those days. That's what they did. They had Nathan Drake, your front and center white dude, heteronormative white guy, and they had to have the chick attached to him that was there to like be the chick that is that. So her name was Chase. I'm glad that the gaming industry has kind of evolved past that shtick or trope, if you will. But anyway, Chase, Marissa is who that character was, and the post-it note in Uncharted 4 is a reference to her. But other than that, none of the events in that game are even mentioned anywhere else in the Uncharted series, and that's unfortunate because it's really, really good.
Yeah, it's always weird when they do that, because I feel like God of War does the same thing with their portable spin-offs.
Their PSP ones, yeah.
Yeah.
God of War Ascension,
they
and Chains of Olympus.
They have full-blown stories, and I've read up on them on Wikipedia, but they're never like, you could play, God of the mainline PlayStation entries, and they never reference the events. At least to my knowledge, they don't. Like, you wouldn't miss out on anything. So,
right.
But it was a different era too. I have no idea how they would, if Sony were to make another portable console, given the success of the Switch. I'd be interested to see them do a Vita 2 or something like that. I imagine it would be a little bit less that, especially if it could connect to the PlayStation, like the main console. If it was all the same infrastructure and everything, you could play all the games.
Yep.
I don't know. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. Well, that's favorite things, which will move us on to our main topic in this case, because whenever we do these episodes, they are kind of, it's kind of like a DLC, like the DLC that we do, as our second segment in most of our episodes. So we typically skip DLC in order to make more time to cover all the massive amount of list of video games. So if you're ready, we can jump right in, unless there's anything else you want to talk about. Awesome. I'm enjoying video gaming too. I didn't play a game the entire first week. And then my family got here, and the deal was they could stay a week if they let me if they took my kid and let me play games and do whatever I wanted for the week and had minimal responsibilities. So I've been playing a lot of Dark Souls, but I played some Outriders with Justin the other night.
You actually made that arrangement with your family?
I did.
You actually said video games or just me time?
Well, originally it was perceived that I was going to be sleeping while they were, because I thought that we were going to be getting a lot less sleep than we have. But since I've been getting so much sleep, I was like, nah. Like my kid wants to be outside all the time, and so normally I take him out there. So my sisters have just been taking him outside, and I've been like, sweet. Well, he's outside, so I'm gonna either hold the baby and play games, or just play games, or someone else is holding the baby. There's 4 of them here, like 4 responsible.
Yeah, you get plenty of adults. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna make some progress in Dark Souls. I'm almost done with my first playthrough.
I fired up Skyrim when my son was born, the second child, and I had the breastfeeding pillow that you would normally wear around your chest.
Yeah, the boppy.
I had one of those to lay my son in while I lounged and played Skyrim for the exact same reasons. Like, I have the baby, my other child is taken care of, and my wife is asleep. So here I am. Like, I can't really go anywhere. I can't really have people over. Like, gonna just play some Skyrim. Yeah. So I get it. It's
it's awesome.
Normal. That's why I was wondering if you had like phrased it so much. So like, I just want to play some video games, because most people are like, well, that's taboo, or like, oh, you're gonna be an irresponsible father. All you want to do is play your childish video games over here while you have new kids to take care of.
No,
and that's not true. And
for people who don't have kids, they sleep.
They do a lot. So I played Witcher 3 when the first kid was born, a lot.
And so as long as you have family members, and it's going to change when they're gone. Then obviously I'll be spending more time with my son. While my wife attends to. But in the meantime, I have people who are eager to watch him and want to watch him and want to play with him outside. Whereas I just want to catch up on some games.
Yes.
I want to catch up on some Dark Souls. I didn't get to play. It was the last thing I was playing before my wife went into labor. And then I didn't play it for like 6 days straight. I didn't play anything for 6 days straight, just as we adjusted that first week.
Of course.
So
that's normal too.
Yep. Good stuff. All right, let's move on. So, okay, Wikipedia, doing this one. For those longtime listeners, you know the deal, but if this is the first one of this series that you are tuning into, we are following a list that is curated by Wikipedia, and you may be thinking, Wikipedia, that's like the source that you're never supposed to cite. Well, in this case, they have a pretty good methodology for compiling this list, and basically they pulled from journalists reaching back for couple decades, and they basically pulled from a bunch of different I think it's something like, last time I checked, or the last time we did this, it's still something like 49 different articles stretching across the last 20 years that were compilations of games that were considered that were on lists of the best video games of all time. And no entry on the Wikipedia list made it without being on at least 6 of those, I think. So it had to be on at least 6 other people's lists. So it's a pretty decent curation. But of course, it's not going to have everything, and it's not even going to be necessarily representative of, like, your favorite game might not be on there from any given year that we're going through. We're going to go through it chronologically, and we're probably only going to cover a couple of years. So we left off last episode we left off in 2006. We blasted through a bunch of years in the first time we did this, and then slowed down significantly when we hit the 90s because we had more to discuss for each entry. So we'll talk about each game, and we'll talk about whether or not we think it belongs on the list. And then when we're done with, as far as we get, we will just do kind of a recap of what we think the year looked like in regards to games that were considered the best for that year. Years.
It's kind of a snapshot of the gaming industry at large, because what is popular and what gets crowned to be the best games usually is indicative of what the industry is doing. And so we like to look back at the end of our episode and kind of analyze what trends are setting and what's popular and what players are doing, and etc.
Yep. So if something we talk about on this list you have never heard of before, there's going to be a lot that we have never too. So if we have never heard of or played a game on the list and you are surprised by that, then please share it with us. Tell us your thoughts about what you think about it, and we'll tell you where you can do that at the end of the show. And
surprise, I'm going to tell you where you can do that right now.
Oh, okay.
You can go to 80bitpodsmash.com. That's our landing website with links to all of our social media outlets where you can find us: Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, all of those things. We have a Discord server in the links of all of our show notes. You can find all of our podcast platforms as well: Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, whatever your flavor of podcast consumption is, we are there. Make sure you hit all of the subscribes and the likes so that we can get our podcast to more ears, including your own, and tell your friends about us. Let us know how you feel about this list, what is missing from it, what you don't agree with. Maybe there's something here that you don't think deserves to be here. Let us know what your personal year in gaming for the 2007 and 2008 potentially that we're going to walk through tonight, and let us know what you feel like.
Word. All right, so let's jump into the list, picking up where we left off last time. The last game we talked about was Wii Sports, which was part of a really awesome 2006. Now we'll pick up with 2007 with the first entry coming in hot with BioShock. The original, published
also,
by 2K Games.
Contextually, in this year, the 2006 was the launch year of both the Wii and the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360 having come out at the end of 2005, and so we're on the precipice of the HD era. 2007 is really when they hit their stride. So BioShock was released for PC and Xbox 360, so PlayStation was not a part of that conversation at the moment. Like you said, it was published by 2K Games. It was developed by Irrational,
right?
And the creative lead Ken Levine. Kevin Levine is a different music pop artist, I believe. Ken Levine is the creative lead from Irrational that made BioShock and changed storytelling in first-person shooters almost as dramatically as the original Half-Life with this title. Showing us that for real, like, legitimately, video games can tell a ridiculously good story and walk you through new ways of sharing that story through environmental storytelling that's not just dialogue and it's not just action on the screen, but literally the environment around you is shaping the tone and the setting. All of those things married together with the enemies and the mechanics, all of that just made this amazing chef's kiss, possibly one of the greatest video games of all time, BioShock.
Yeah, and it was a spiritual successor to System Shock, which came out, which we discussed. It's on this list, and we discussed it back when we were covering the late 90s, because that came out in 1999. So it was also designed by Ken Levine. So there's that creative thread that goes through both games. And but yeah, BioShock kind of took a lot of the, I guess, themes and ideas in System Shock and then really condensed them into a solid story. One of the greatest twists in gaming, which we won't spoil, even though it is widely, I would argue it's the I am your father of video
Yep.
games, probably just
Mhm.
because it's got that tagline, it's got that nice little hook there, and it was
Yep.
just as like mind blowing at the time, and still arguably is still one of the best twists. I can't think of anything in any game that was like as
Whoa!
groundbreaking at the time in regards to
Mhm.
just twists. So fantastic.
Lost my mind. Yeah, I loved
Always love it.
Yep.
Love it. So, yeah, great. Deserves to be
There
on the list.
is a remaster on the current gen consoles. I
Yes.
say current gen, but not PS5, Xbox Series X, but PS4, Xbox One. So go get that.
Holds
if you want
up
to play
too. Just the feel of the game as a first person shooter, and the mechanics of the gunfire feels good. The what do you call them, plasmids feel really good. The enemies are interesting and fun. The game holds up to over a decade later. So cool. BioShock. Next is also heavy hitter, crazy heavy hitter, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. I even played this game.
Yeah.
This is a Call of Duty that I even played back in 2007. 2007 was my graduation year. So
Why did you play this?
I don't know. I had friends who played it, and I wanted to play games with them. So I would go over to their basement and play games. And Modern Warfare.
They were all into Call of Duty.
They were all into Call of Duty.
Okay.
I wasn't into it. Didn't get into it. But of the Call of Duties, I remember this one standing out as being like, oh, this is kind of cool. So
I feel like there was Halo 2 back in 2004.
yeah.
And then there was somewhat of a Gears of War, but Gears of War wasn't
Yeah.
multiplayer yet.
Yeah.
But it was still kind of along that thread. But really, Call of Duty was after Halo 2, but before Halo 3, and it was the multiplayer game to play. Like,
Yep.
it was.
Yep.
That's pretty much where it got its notoriety from. It was Call of Duty 4 was the first Call of Duty game to break out of the World War II
Yep.
and like go into. That's why it's called Modern Warfare, and it was super fast paced. It had a revolutionary new, ridiculously crazy but modern military. Not when I say crazy, I mean like in action and pace multiplayer that worked. It was solid. It was mechanically sound. It was like, yeah, I don't know, it just gripped everyone. And it started what we now know as Call of Duty, like the best-selling game of all time for like the last 15 years, every single year.
Every single year coming out. Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, it started with Call of Duty 4 back in 2007, and it had a really good
kind
campaign.
of irks me. It kind of irks me that it's on this list just because of what it became. But at the time, it really was. Activision was, they were doing something great with it at the time. It just they didn't do anything great with it afterwards. You know what I mean? Like they just kept iterating on the same formula from here on out. But this one started the formula. This one, popularized it and arguably revolutionized gaming and multiplayer gaming at the time. It was really hitting that stride when the internet was, again, becoming more and more widely available, was streaming at higher, not streaming, but was putting, higher throughputs and bandwidth in people's homes. More people were having high-speed internet at the time. So it really was just, people had access to it. And it was the game at the right time. And but it came out for pretty much all the major platforms. So PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC. And as we discussed, it was published by Activision. So, cool. All right, moving along. Unless there's anything else you want to say about Call of Duty?
Nope. Let's go.
God of War 2.
And what platform was this for?
PlayStation exclusive, PlayStation 2.
But it was after PlayStation 3?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what happened. It definitely happened that way. Santa Monica Studios developed God of War 2, released it on the PlayStation 2, and it is arguably the best PlayStation 2 game of all of them because of its pushing the PlayStation 2 to all of its limits, graphically, sound, animations, storytelling, etc. It was like huge. God of War 2 shattered the PlayStation 2 library. It was awesome. Like absolutely incredible set pieces and scope and scale, unprecedented, especially being a last gen game and a current gen during their transition. There's not a whole lot else to say there. At the time,
just the story, again, just being you can see Sony's the early stages of the Sony that we have now in regards to just like big blockbuster games, huge set pieces, epic storyline, just a lot of production value going into this game. Obviously, the same is true for the first one, but this one just, again, this was like, okay, we got to do it again, bigger, better, and I think
you got to up the ante. Yeah, it was the swan song of PS2.
Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. We love God of War. So moving on. If we seem to blast through it quickly, it's not due to lack of affection.
That's true.
You mentioned Halo 3, and that's next on the list.
This is the game that came out in 2007 that caused me to pull the trigger on an Xbox 360.
Oh, nice.
I had original
So
Xbox,
good.
I had a PlayStation 2, and I had a Wii. I got a Wii on launch night, but this was the first like HD system because of Halo 3. If you noticed or remembered, Halo 2 ended on a super hard, terrible cliffhanger ending.
Yeah.
And so Halo 3 is hype. It was all about, was it finish the fight? Is that what they always used to say?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And
they
added
really
the brutes
downplayed. Yeah, they downplayed the Arbiter's role in this one because he was not. I loved the Arbiter. I loved everything about the Arbiter in Halo 2. I thought that was a great little idea, doing the forced perspective shift. Are we the baddies kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think they. I don't even think he's playable in 3 in the campaign. But that was due to feedback. People didn't like the Arbiter. People didn't apparently. The average gamer didn't want to sympathize with the people they were, the group they were killing in the previous game. Go figure. Go figure. The gaming community wouldn't necessarily have a lot of empathy at 2007. But nevertheless, definitely you could tell that they were really, working hard to make this game. It was the completion of the trilogy, right? Finish the fight. It was Bungie. Yeah, Bungie. It's still weird to say that name in relation to Halo. Yeah. It was Bungie's last big, Halo game in the main chronology, right? So they did Reach and they did ODST, but this was their last Master Chief story. So they really wanted to they really wanted to do justice to it, and it was great. So I loved it.
First day sales reached $170 million, setting a record for highest gross sales of a video game within 24 hours of its release at the time.
Jeez.
So it was a big deal.
Big
deal. Yeah. Halo 3, 2007. What a time to be alive.
So far, I can't really, I'm annoyed at Call of Duty's inclusion, but I'm not disputing it. So everything so far has been pretty solid. So go 2007.
And it just keeps rolling.
Mass Effect is next on the list. Again, we'll talk about revolutionizing what's capable with storytelling. This was, BioWare's. Was it their first on this list? Is it the first BioWare on the list?
I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it too.
You can keep talking and I'll scroll up and see.
Either way, once again, BioWare came in with a strong showing in regards to just massive storytelling with crazy choices that had huge effects on everything. I remember reading that they were trying to create
Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh, KOTOR, yeah, good point. Yeah, but this was their own. This is their, they're not just doing Star Wars. They're not just doing a Star Wars game, which is a canon that people have known for, plenty of decades prior to KOTOR's release. This is their...
Baldur's Gate 2. Shadows of Bomb.
All right.
I'm going up the list.
Never mind. Forget I said anything. But anyways, yeah, I remember reading an interview where they talked about they wanted to give you the feeling of being a starship captain. Star Trek style or whatever, or Battlestar Galactica. They wanted you to give that feeling of being, a captain in control, making choices for his crew that had consequences, and they had this whole promise of how those choices would carry through for the next 2 games, and would impact your save file would transfer, and all the choices you made in the previous games would impact. And so it was this big, massive undertaking, nothing like it at the time, and I still want to play it for the Legendary Edition.
Me too. You've never played it before, have you?
No, I have a copy of it on Steam. Again, the old version of the game or whatever, and I've tried getting into it. There were at least 2 occasions that I gave a solid effort to try to get into it, and just never really clicked with me.
Which is the exact same story I have and T-Bone. The 3 of us all have tried this exact thing. It's like, I'm going to start it again. Okay. It's not catching. Set it down. All right, I'm going to start it again. I'm excited. I want to play this game. And I got bored and moved on. And we'll start again. Nope. Okay. Yep.
Did you get the Legendary Collection, though? Do you have it?
No, I do not have
okay.
it.
I thought we talked about you getting it at one point, and then you never did. And I'm the same way. I almost did, too. I almost pulled the trigger on it. And I think I will before the end of the year. But I ended up making a choice between Dark Souls and Mass Effect, and I decided that because I wanted to get hyped for Elden Ring, that I would do Dark Souls. So
yeah, but this was a legendarily scoped massive, like BioWare follow-on. KOTOR set the world on fire, and we knew what they were capable of in the sci-fi space. And Mass Effect was to take everything about multi-planets and races and classes and everything that you loved about KOTOR, being, of course, Star Wars IP, and make a new IP that's all that stuff but more. It's just like bigger scale, bigger scope, bigger budget. This was like where BioShock was put on the grand scheme, like gaming map. That they're a legit AAA developer. They started with KOTOR. This is their follow-on effort, and they met all of that demand.
Yeah, and Mass Effect. I mean, it's again
beloved.
the reason I want to play is because again, this game gets talked about so much, even to this day. I mean, obviously it comes up in the conversation now because it just was released, but it just really had an impact once again on what is capable with telling a story in video games. And this one, unlike BioShock, which the story in BioShock could presumably be told in like a novel or a movie. You could not do what Mass Effect did with storytelling,
right?
In either of those mediums. So, okay, gosh, we can wax eloquent about it for a game we never played, but it totally deserves to be on the list. Portal is next, and
I know you played this, right?
I have played Portal. Talk about what I haven't played Portal 2. I really want to.
What?
I know.
Stop the podcast. Shut it down. You are not a gamer. You are a fake gamer boy.
Stop.
I'm just kidding.
Calm down. Portal, this game is the quintessential physics game. Like, in regards to this game revolutionized physics engines, I think, in video gaming. And for as simple of a game it is, for being made with the Half-Life engine, and kind of, in many ways, it's a lot. And in a lot of ways, it's Valve's, at least technical follow-up to... I would argue it's the technical follow-up to
Half-Life 2?
Half-Life, that's what I meant, yeah.
Yep.
Even if it's not the story follow-up to it. And but, for as simple of an idea as it was, just so brilliantly executed in the writing, the puzzles themselves, the gameplay, amazing. Portal.
Yeah, I mean, being able to, right-click to shoot one portal, and then left-click to shoot the other one, and then run through them, and the physics persist through them, so you can, do falling puzzles and jumping portals, launching
momentum puzzles,
momentum, exactly, yeah. Something completely unprecedented. Valve just happens to throw these games out that are just, blowing people's minds. They don't really know. This has never happened before, not even close. So, yeah, absolutely gem of a game.
Yep. Yeah. Next is Rock Band. We talked a little bit about Rock Band because Guitar Hero showed up 2 years prior in the list. So really, in regards to just innovations, the only addition Rock Band had that Guitar Hero didn't was other instruments. So they added a drum set and a singer, I think. Didn't it come with a microphone for singing? Yeah.
Yep.
And
a singer and a drummer. And a bass guitarist and a lead guitarist.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So
4 players, Rock Band. Oh my gosh. I don't know about you, but we had Rock Band nights. A friend had a projector and a surround sound system and a smoke machine, and it was weekly. We would go to his house and we would just play Rock Band, and we would rotate out whoever wanted to play whatever instruments.
It was not my thing.
So good. I have
know.
so many good memories.
I played it, and we did it. I did the same thing. At least on one occasion, I remember going over to someone's house for Rock Band. And it's fine. I just am it's the same rhythm game, just with drums and a singer. I don't see how it deserves to be on best games list, but that's not up for me to decide. So.
I think it absolutely deserves a spot here. It set a community cultural is a cultural icon, like Rock Band, right? That was a thing. It took what Guitar Hero did, it just built on it, and created a whole new 4-player co-op situation, karaoke night in your own house without the stupid machine, and everyone can play, and if you don't want to sing you don't have to. I don't know, it was just it was awesome, much so that when the 4th one had come out on PS4, everyone thought it was slated to make a really strong comeback, and it wasn't ready yet. It didn't. It kind of flopped, but it was a thing that people look back on fondly. It's it was a thing, a cultural icon. Moving on. So Nintendo shows up again with a solid Super Mario game, this time Super Mario Galaxy on the Wii. Yep.
I still want to play this because I have the Switch version from the
3D All-Stars.
But I can't really speak to it, only than other to say that was a really worded sentence.
Yep.
But I'll roll with it. Nintendo's 3D mainline Mario showings had been amazing up to this point, and then also amazing after this point with Odyssey. So I really want to play that in-between game because I know it's going to be great, and apparently the internet agrees with me.
Yeah, this is the third 3D Mario game in the series. So we had Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and then Mario Galaxy. And Nintendo, being the constant innovators that they are, decided to turn the Mario platforming formula on its head and say, let's run around a bunch of microplanets and adjust gravity and do all these weird, crazy new ideas with Mario in space. And it clicked. It's amazing. It used the motion controls in the least obtrusive, gimmicky way you can do with the motion controls with the Wiimote and the nunchuck, and it just worked. It was fluid, 60 frames per second, solid platforming, no bugs, absolutely good scale and fun, addicting, and ridiculously challenging gameplay. So nothing more to say other than that that's just how a Mario game should be. So Mario Galaxy 2007. Awesome.
Yep. So here comes Valve again with 2 games in the same year, hitting the best games of all time list, which I don't know if that's a first, but it's still impressive, especially for such a good crowded year. But they also released in 2007 Team Fortress 2.
Team Fortress 2.
This was
the foundation of esports.
Yeah. And the foundation of team-based shooters such as Overwatch and stuff like that all can trace their lineage back to Team Fortress 2. So, yeah, basic premise of having, 2 teams trying to, I'm not quite sure what the objective was, but 2 teams trying to accomplish a goal with specialized roles that one person had to be in each team. So you had a spy, you had a heavy, you had a healer, all that, taking those kind of role-based mechanics that you see in RPGs and applying them to a team-based competitive shooter. Boom, mwah, PC exclusive at the time.
It was. I think it came out later in the orange box for consoles, but at the time that 2007 when it was released, it was a PC exclusive.
Yeah, cool. I don't have anything else to say on it, so totally deserves to be on the list.
New way of doing a cooperative team-based arena shooter, you said it. So. Yep.
All right, so 2008 is another big year, but they start to get smaller after this. So in future episodes, we make it through more than 2 years at a time. But we got to get through 2008, which I think is the biggest year on this list. So,
buckle in.
Yeah, buckle in.
Strap up.
Here we go. So 2008 would then come around, and the first one on this list is Braid.
Braid is a puzzle platform game developed by Number None and considered an indie title. And the reason why I wanted to read that is because this highlighted Xbox and Microsoft's platform place to allow indie games to flourish for the first time. Microsoft's arcade initiative here set the world on fire for indie studios. It was a chance for non-funded studios to kind of have a place in the industry and allow them to bubble up in the algorithms. Braid was amazing for its time. I never played it myself, but it was an indie gem that I think started the reasons why you've ever heard of Super Meat Boy or Castle Crashers, and the list goes on. Inside was the sequel to Braid. This puzzle platformer was the groundbreaking, amazing indie title that was part of all of that.
Yeah, I believe this game came up in our first episode because I believe this game was one of those cited examples of video games as a piece of art. Yep. The game is, again, Wikipedia here itself says that it was highly considered a masterpiece at the time and still is considered a masterpiece to this day. So, again, never played it, but now I want to.
Yeah.
So, there's that. But, just a puzzle game, right? Puzzle platformer? Is that what it says it is?
Yep. Side-scrolling puzzle platformer, yeah.
Amazing. So, cool. All right, moving on. Totally want to check out Braid. Totally should check out Braid. Probably deserves to be on the list if it was that well received. Next is Burnout Paradise, a racing game published by EA for all the major platforms at the time. Have you played it?
I have not, but there is a remaster that came out because it is so beloved. In 2008, this was developed by Criterion Games, published by EA, like you said. It's a racing game centered around, I think the first Burnout was on this list, but it is the newest entry in it where you destroy everything. So it's you just do speed things and you try to create as much chaos as possible. There's points and bonuses for combos creating chaos and destruction across cities and other cars. But this is where, so last year, 2007, we only saw 2 PS3 titles on the list. That was Call of Duty 4 and Rock Band. Now we have a third-party publisher, Electronic Arts, showing up on the list as Microsoft dominated 2007. This is the beginning of PlayStation 3 kind of having some good hits, even though they're third party in 2008.
Nice. I have nothing to say about it.
Cool.
So, moving on.
The next one is very relevant to today.
Yes.
Dead Space, a survival horror game, again published by EA and developed by EA Redwood Shores. The remake is just announced. They're doing an entire
did
reboot. Yeah, and
is it a reboot or is it a?
It's a remake.
Reboot. Oh,
it's a complete reboot remake. So it is the first game entirely redone in a God of War single cut, like no cutting. Yes, go watch the teaser. It was announced. I don't remember which event it was. Yes, it sounds amazing. I missed this game
because it's because it's gonna be. I did too. So because it's gonna be it sounds like such a departure artistically from the original. I want to play the original now really badly.
Yes,
so,
me too. I've kind of been like scouting it on PlayStation 3 because I want to get trophies and I want to play it. So I think I've got a copy on Origin on PC, but that don't count. So whatever.
I missed it only because
You're playing WoW. That's why.
Well, that too, but it didn't even. Yeah, it didn't even really. Yeah, you're right. It didn't even really come across my. The only thing that I remember it coming across, but I remember when it came out, and I remember even at the time, even as early as 2008, and this is actually going to be true for another entry on this list too of this year. But as early as 2008, I remember feeling a little bit burned out on zombies. Just zombies. It had been zombies since like 2002, and this was just zombies in space to me at the time.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that. It's an actual like proper horror game, from my understanding, like proper horror sci-fi.
Yep.
In the vein of like Event Horizon, like the movie Event Horizon and stuff like that. So I want to watch it.
I'm looking up prices on eBay, and Dead Space 1 on PS3 is definitely artificially bloated. Probably
bloated, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That sucks.
Lame.
That's expensive.
Is it on PC?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
I bet you could get it on Steam. Good Steam sale.
I don't want to play on places I can't get trophies. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Trophies.
All right.
That's all that matters.
All right. Next on the list is Fallout 3.
Oh.
Widely considered the best Fallout by many, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this was their first time going into the first-person shooter perspective, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
Fallout 1 and 2 were isometric top-down.
Yep. Took place in Washington, D.C., I want to say? Or was it...
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I knew it was East Coast, so...
Yeah,
right in our backyard. Mm-hmm. Also, freaking Fallout 76 is right in our backyard, like a different
West
backyard.
Virginia. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, Fallout 3 is, obviously by Bethesda, and, really started Fallout's massive popularity, and Bethesda's already shown up on this list for many of their games, including Fallout, the previous entries, but this was the first jump to that space, first-person shooter space, and was a success, huge success. So, this showed they were innovating at the time, following the trends at the time, but also still, making a great, solid RPG.
Yeah, I mean, Bethesda had just come off the success of Oblivion, so they now grabbed the Fallout IP and have done to it what they've been doing with Elder Scrolls, and adding the big giant scope, open world, dialogue choices, skill trees, etc., and setting the world on fire with a whole new thing that everyone else chased after.
Yeah.
Fallout 3 is
years.
definitely the grandfather of many, many titles we have today, such as Horizon Zero Dawn, etc.
The open world. It's so many different. It's the predecessor to so many things. Yeah. For sure. Post-apocalypse. It was Fallout 3 in many ways is the game of its time, right? Like, it encapsulates a lot of what the late 2000s had to offer, just culturally, everything. So, Cool, awesome. Gears of War 2,
which you have not also played because of World of Warcraft.
For sure. I did play Gears of War 1 though. I have that under my belt. I didn't play a lot of it. I didn't finish it or anything like that, but I played like a couple hours with a friend co-op. So. But no, never touched Gears of War 2. Tell me about it.
Yeah, Xbox exclusive. It took everything Gears of War 1 started and kind of built upon it, so it continued the story. I do believe this was the first entry into its multiplayer. Yes, it had upgraded multiplayer mode, 10 users to simultaneously play in teams of 5-on-5, so it started that whole, like, Halo, Call of Duty competition, Gears of War. It started like a little bit of grandfathering of the esports stuff. I remember there being some teams and some routes and stuff where I was in my circles. Like, it was a big deal for multiplayer. But yeah, I mean, it's Gears of War, right? It's cover-based shooter, third person. graphical set piece, lots of great story, AAA budget, high budget games, just continuing to push this idea that games can do what movies do. The summer blockbusters can translate into games in a more meaningful way, because you're engaging someone to last longer. It's like, yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, awesome.
Yep.
All right, Grand Theft Auto 4.
Of course, everyone's eyes were waiting for this. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City, the success they saw on PlayStation 2, Rockstar Games pushing this out on PS3 and Xbox 360 now. This is the next Grand Theft Auto. It's just as big then as it is now. The second they announced Grand Theft Auto 6, the hype behind it is what happened with the hype behind Grand Theft Auto 4. It was set in an artificial New York City where I don't even remember, like a Russian criminal like came overseas. I could be completely misspeaking. Eastern European war veteran, that's who he is. Niko Bellic attempts to escape his past while under pressure from high-profile criminals, and it's the same Grand Theft Auto, but just modern generation, right? Better graphics, bigger scale, the same, all the cool things from San Andreas like carried over. It's more Grand Theft Auto. It's great. So if you haven't played it, it's good. Go check it out.
I haven't played it, but because of WoW.
Yeah. Exactly. You were, yep.
My soul was sold to Blizzard at the time.
And here is my 2008 Game of the Year.
Yep.
Left 4 Dead, the first one, of which you have never played.
Also for the similar reasons.
So Valve is back.
But hey, this game is, it is. I mean, Valve just has been, Valve and Microsoft have just been coming, like, showing up in this episode.
Valve releases a game that no one has ever seen anything like. It is totally unique in every way. It is a 4-player co-op. Yes, you shoot through hordes and hordes of zombies, but the way it was set up, the balancing that and the complementarianism that happens with all 4 characters, and I just made that word and shoved it into something it's not, and don't worry about it. You had 4 players working together. You had to share healing was super limited, so it had the survival aspect. It had strategy across like hordes of zombies and like being able to defend certain points with a good mix of weapons and like the team strategy behind the co-op. Left 4 Dead was massively appealing to the enthusiasts who wanted to play it on the hardest difficulty and do the biggest challenges, but also to like the masses, where it was just ridiculously fun, super replayable. Each campaign was broken up into like four little sub acts, and it was a challenge to get through all 4 of them. There's a big boss at the end, big set piece where you're trying to escape. There's usually like some mad dash to a helicopter where there's one person left, everyone else is dead. They're screaming and yelling. It was awesome. Like, it was just so dramatic and so good. And I just can't.
It's totally
speak.
up my alley.
Yes,
like I would
it
totally.
is, and that's why I'm so bitter that you've never played this game.
I'm bitter that I'd never played this game. But the problem,
get it.
The problem
Let's
was
play right now.
The problem was twofold. It was number 1, the WoW thing, which we've established. Number 2, the zombie thing, which we've also already established. This game did not cross my radar because at the time I was just like, oh, freaking zombies. I'm sick of them.
Yep.
But then it got talked about, and people kept talking about it, and people didn't stop talking about it, and people kept talking about how it was the greatest game of all time. And Back 4 Blood was announced, and people literally pooped themselves. And
Turtle Rock Studios, same developers.
Right. So I'm just like, this game has not gone away as far as like the discourse around it. So of course I want to give it a shot because it is just so well beloved and also right up my alley in regards to what you're describing. So yes, let's do it. Let's do it.
I would play this on PC with you. Like, that's how I will sacrifice trophy time to get to play this with you. It's so
fantastic.
Good. Yeah.
All right, next is Little Big Planet.
The first PlayStation 3 exclusive on this list.
Nice.
2008.
Good
Little
for
Big
them.
Planet. Developed by, I think it's Media Molecule. Yep, it sure is. And it is a platforming game where you can create your own levels and worlds. Little Big Planet. If you've heard of Sackboy, Big Adventure on PlayStation 5, that is the icon, the mascot that starred in Little Big Planet. Like, that's who he is. That's where he's from.
Interesting. Cool.
Yep. So this is the first one. Media Molecule has made Dreams. If you've heard of Dreams, they're the same developer. So this is their first puzzle platform game. Again, it has all the creativity where you can like build your own levels, kind of like Mario Maker, but not with that IP. Very creative, very unique, very Sony. This PlayStation 3 reaching the turning point of when they start to gain acceleration over the success of 360 which I'll get into at the end when we start summarizing these 2 years. But this was yet another notch in Sony's pool of games with which to pick up that really showcased the studios that they have and how awesome they are.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Sony and latecomers to the PlayStation, the PlayStation, or at least latecomers to the PlayStation 2, Atlas shows up on the list, I think, for the first time with Persona 4. And finally, we've been able to do this. We're like 7 episodes into this series. I finally get to talk about this. Was the title that actually drew my attention to this list in the first place. I discovered Persona this 4. List when I was playing Persona 5. I was researching Persona 4 because I was interested in seeing what the game was like. And stumbled across this list because I was reading Wikipedia, and it was like, it's widely considered one of the best games of all time, and that sentence was linked, and I clicked the link and discovered this list. So, Persona 4, you have to thank for this episode and all of its kindred, or hate for all of this episodes and its kindred. I don't know, depends on how you feel about this series. But yeah, Persona, we all know that, Penguin and Termite are big fans of Persona 5. Persona 4, again, is widely considered the best Persona game, and just kind of added a whole bunch of mechanics that really hadn't been in video games up to that point, like the calendar system and the social bonds and all that stuff, and had that beautiful anime flair, and was awesome, great, amazing. I really want to play Persona 4 Golden. I really hope they port it to PlayStation.
I think you can get a Persona 4 Golden on Steam, if I'm not
you
mistaken.
Can. That's why I want them to port it to PlayStation 4 and 5, because why not? Why lock it to the Vita and PC? Because that's what it's locked to right now.
Yeah, and I have a copy on the Vita that I'm like chomping at the bit to get to, but I have to finish Persona 5 first.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I suppose you could play it on PlayStation 2, but you're not going to get trophies. So
yeah, forget that.
I want Persona 4 Golden on PS5. That's all I want. That's not all I want, but that is a thing that I want.
That would be wonderful. And it would definitely be super, super widespread received and celebrated and cheered. It would be hype. It would be hype.
I mean, again, didn't Atlas announce they had like 6 Persona titles in the works?
Yep.
Like one of them.
We covered that in our new show, and one of them was, Persona 4 is coming. And everybody lost their minds. But it's not officially announced, so we don't know yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Rock Band 2 showed up though, so despite your references to it previous, it made the list.
It was a thing, man. It was, people were riding the wave. It was so hype. It was so big.
Yeah, 1 year later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1 year later, the sequel came out, and they've added more songs. They've improved the mechanics. They've improved the drum set. They've added new features to the guitars, and they just re-released a whole bunch of new hardware, and it was amazing. And it continued to turn up everything. Turn it up.
Turn. Yeah, I have no comment. So we'll talk about Spelunky instead. That's next on the list.
Hey, the indie drive continues.
It's
Spelunky.
here. It's here. They're finally they're making this list, and they're coming. They're coming. So yeah, Spelunky. I've heard of this game. I don't really know much about it, but I know that it's commonly referred to as one of the best indie games of all time.
Isn't it roguelike-ish?
I don't know. I'm looking at it now. It's a 2D platform game is all I know. It makes me think of... Oh, it is roguelike. It was the influence for many later roguelike games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep.
It was one of the first to borrow concepts from roguelikes and combine them with a side-scrolling platformer. And so good for it.
There you go.
Yep. So check it out. Totally go check it out.
I have a copy of it. If you did the PS Plus, you got a PlayStation version, whether it's on PS3 or PS Vita. But
it just depends on when it was, what month it was, because it could have predated me. Who knows? Yeah. So cool. Well, let's go ahead and talk about Street Fighter 4 from Capcom, fighting game.
4.
It says arcade here as the platform?
It's the first one it was released for. Yeah.
Interesting.
It came out on arcades before consoles.
That's cool. Good for it. 2008. Good for it.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want to talk about it? Do you ever play it?
Yeah, I played the crap out of it when it first came out on 360 is when I actually played it. But so I don't know what the date is for that.
Yeah, it says the 2008 in August 2008. It didn't come to consoles until February 2009. It looks like, and that's that was just Japan. Well, so February 12th, 2009. Then 4 days later, it came to America. So.
Okay. Ridiculously technical. The tutorials in this go down to the frame times of the combos.
Wow.
So much so that I threw my controller in frustration at trying to accomplish the tutorials because they were so hard to get the combos correct. Like, you had to get the timing down to the exact frame. It's a 60 frames per second title, so you had to get it right with 1/60th of a second, and it was tough, very tough. Again, continuing the idea of like esports and trying to cater to the fighting game market and industry. It was a whole thing. It's solid, balanced. It had esports in mind. The online I was not able to ever win online ever not once.
Nice.
But it was super fun. And Street Fighter came back to the I mean, like, I was into Street Fighter 2 and Super Street Fighter 2 back in Super Nintendo days. So like 2 generations of consoles have passed. I skipped Street Fighter 3 because I never had a Dreamcast. And here we are with Street Fighter 4. And it was incredible. It was like, oh, shoot, like Street Fighter's back. So, of course, it took the world by storm. And it was awesome. And we have Street Fighter 5 now. So
yeah, yeah, no, Street Fighter. There are 2 Street Fighter reps in Smash Bros. So still widely beloved franchise.
Still kicking butt.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool, awesome. So we are going to end with 2008 because I do want to take some time to talk about the trends that we're seeing here.
Yeah.
And we're reaching our limit here, but we're ending this year 2008 and ending this episode with Valkyria Chronicles, a tactical RPG published by Sega. So another Sega showing here.
Yeah.
You know, very anime looking game, JRPG kind of vibes. Did you ever play it?
I have not, but I do have a copy of this and the remastered version of it digitally. So I have the PS3 version on my shelf, and I haven't played it. Heard wonderful things about this. If you liked Final Fantasy Tactics, this is kind of like in that vein. The setting is different, of course, but it's a tactical shooter, very Fire Emblem meets Advance Wars, but it's published by Sega, and it has an anime vibe to it, so it's more militaristic, and the fights are like, you can see it from a map top down. It looks like Hyrule Warriors would look like, or Samurai Warriors. But the actual combat itself is over the shoulder 3D, so it's where it's kind of like Fire Emblem, where the combat zooms in on the fight itself. So yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about the story. I just know that this was very well beloved.
Yeah, it looks like they got rid of the grid-based map. I'm reading it right now. It's one of its big innovations for this genre. Is it says they gave players a new sense of tactical freedom, absent in other games, via the removal of staples such as the grid-based map. So that's pretty interesting for tactical. You know what? We haven't done one on tactical RPGs. We should probably do it, even though I will be... I'm not going to say bored to tears. I'll probably learn something, and that will always interest me. But I will probably also be like, I haven't played any of these.
You haven't played a tactical RPG ever?
Nah, just... maybe, you know what? Maybe it's the next Souls-likes for me. Maybe I just need to find one.
World of Warcraft. Right. I just blame World of Warcraft.
No, this predates it, because I remember when Final Fantasy Tactics was out. I remember when Advance Wars. I remember
Fire Emblem?
Learning about both of them. Not Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem wasn't until later because of Smash Bros. I was only introduced to it through Smash.
Same here, but there were some Game Boy Advance games that came out after that.
Sure, but I just remember being like turned off by the genre entirely at the time, and I worry that they share too much in common with strategy games for me now. I'm so not into strategy games anymore. So, I'd be willing to give it a shot with the right title, especially considering...
You mean like StarCraft?
Yeah, sorry, real-time strategy.
These are nothing like that. You don't build units and like move troops around.
I know, but there's still sort of there's a through line, right? There's still strategy elements to it. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, maybe you just need to introduce me to maybe you need to Bloodborne this genre for me.
Just go play Final Fantasy Tactics. It's amazing.
All right. I'm not going to do that. You're going to have to like sit me down and do it. Because I'm probably not going to do it otherwise.
Come to my house right now.
All right. Valkyrie Chronicles. So that's Valkyria.
Valkyria.
Yeah, that's
Valkyria Chronicles.
Yes. So that's where we're ending for the day. So let's really quickly break down what are the trends we're seeing this year. What's different about 2007 and 2008 that is changing? I feel like the most obvious thing right now are just in the vein of the developers and publishers themselves. You see the biggest heavy hitters, I feel like, in these 2 years were Valve and Microsoft. They're just killing it, which is just is indicative of the huge shift in popularity of the Xbox 360 over the PlayStation.
Initially,
right.
Because history will tell that PlayStation 3 led the sales over 360 by the end of that generation, because they came back. And Sony shifted strategies, much like Microsoft did with the Xbox One. And that's past this. So 2007, 2008, You definitely nailed it. You see Microsoft Game Studios out the gate with games like Gears of War 2, with Mass Effect, with Halo 3, just big heavy hitters for first party exclusives on the 360, just selling 360. We also see the Xbox Live Arcade initiative with Braid and Spelunky coming out, like allowing indie developers to shine and promoting them and allowing them a place to be and attracting more and more people. So the 360 was just flourishing here. And then the PC game space, Valve was kicking butt with new innovations with Portal and Team Fortress 2 and Left 4 Dead, continuing to drive the PC market, revolutionizing the Steam platform and just pushing all of the content, like consumers to it. Like Steam becoming the one-stop shop for all PC games started here in these 2 years when it started getting exclusives like Portal, Team Fortress 2, and Left 4 Dead. So you see all of that. PlayStation still kicking butt over in their own blue ocean with God of War 2 and Little Big Planet, revolutionizing like creativity
Persona,
and
like they're still here.
Persona, they're definitely still there. I mean, PlayStation 2 is one of the best-selling consoles of all time, but weirdly, Nintendo just had Mario Galaxy.
Yeah,
Wii. That's 2 full years of the Wii being out after 2006, its release year. So it's actually like year 1, year 2, year 3, and years 2 and 3 only got Mario Galaxy. That's the Wii, despite the fact that it is like the single best-selling console of all time. That or the PS2. I can't forget.
It was the PS2, but the Wii's like 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like over 100-some million copy consoles sold. So no doubt that it was a success. But as far as like the best games, the best software, you can definitely tell the Wii was appealing to the mass markets of like grandparents and little kids, and had a lot of shovelware and a lot of like other things going on with it that were not like Super Mario Galaxy being the only one. So
yeah, I mean, it's indicative of the time too. I mean, if you look back, just scrolling back up the 2000s on this list, and I'm seeing like only a handful of Nintendo titles at all. And yeah, just and they're good titles, right? Like you got Smash in there, Smash Melee. You got WarioWare, and as you get closer up to the top, you get cool things like Metroid Prime and Zelda and all that stuff. But like, yeah, Nintendo. This is just indicative of just how this was Nintendo's struggling years, right? Like the Wii did something different and new and innovative.
Well, that's why this is weird though, because Nintendo was not struggling; they were thriving. They were thriving more in this time than they ever have.
They
before.
were, but they weren't. I mean, like they were popular, but they weren't putting out the level of artistic. I don't know. I feel like they've really brought it with the Switch in regards to like really artistically sound games. Mm-hmm. Whereas this time they were struggling. I think that they were struggling to compete in I don't know. Maybe they weren't putting out enough. Like their innovations were few and far between. It's just interesting to look at this list and see that you don't really see a lot, in the mid 2000s from Nintendo compared to PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Mm-hmm. So yeah. It's just notable.
But that is exactly what my next point was going to be. Good segue. Was that we had talked in other episodes of our podcast about like the teen, gritty, dark gray, muted colors era of gaming, and we are here. We are totally. This is it right now.
Yep.
Call of Duty: Modern Warfare, God of War 2, Halo
Left 4
3,
Dead,
Mass Effect, Left 4 Dead, Fallout 3, Gears of War 2, Grand Theft Auto 4. These games all have the same color palette, and that's like super dark, muted gray.
Gray or green or brown,
green and brown. It was like the angst teenage years of the gaming industry where everything was like dark and super intense and just like menacing and big man doing
and
big
Space Marines. I mean, you got Halo, Mass Effect, Dead Space. They're all Space Marines. Gears of War, they're all Space Marines.
Yeah,
the gritty, grizzled, totally unrealistic male body proportions, everything.
Yep. So we are in the middle of that. Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
For sure. Yeah. Crazy. So yeah, cool. Well, that is the show then. That was 2007 and 2008 in regards to the Wikipedia's best video game list of all time. I really, really hope that next time we do this episode, we can maybe get through 3 years because the list is starting to get smaller, or the lists for each year are starting to get smaller. So we're working our way through it. We're getting close to the end, and the series will be able to wrap up, I would say, maybe 2-3 episodes max. But then again, when I conceptualized this series, I thought we'd get through it in 1 episode, and then I was like, okay, well, for sure we can get through it in 2. And it's been like 7 now, so we've bit off more than we can chew, but we're still chewing it. So,
Yep.
So we'll hit it again at some point. Thank you for letting me have some time to get my house in order and do a relatively low effort episode here. But yeah, we're happy to have this conversation. This is a fun. This is provided endless hours of content for us. So we want to hear your thoughts though on these 2 years and all the games we talked about. Do you agree? Should they be on this list? Should they not be on this list? Is there anything that did not show up on this list that you think is one of the best video games of all time from this year? And did you have any comments or additional thoughts on the titles that we talked about? We want to hear those thoughts and more. Termite will remind you real quick of what where you can find us to talk about it if you want to.
You can find us at 80bitpodsmash.com, 80bitpodsmash.com, landing website, podcast platforms, social media outlets. It's all there. Everything you need. YouTube stuff for all of our news show. We have a Twitch channel, twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash, where on Monday nights at 8 p.m. we run through the weekly news most of the time, and Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. we do a weekly live gameplay stream. I do believe I am streaming last week, because by the time this episode airs, it will have already happened. But every Wednesday at 8 p.m., we stream a game that we're digging. So make sure you jump in our Twitch chat channels and interact with our community and have fun with us. It's all there, 80bitpodsmash.com, for any more details that I may have missed. Or our YouTube channel link is there as well. So check us out.
All right, so next week, we're either going to do one of two things. So I made a list today, but it may be outdated. So we're either going to talk about indie games, which is well timed considering we hit a couple on this list, and but we also may decide to pivot and talk about, we've had some recent thoughts, and there have been new developments in the Activision Blizzard scandal, and so we may end up doing a follow-up to that with some more thoughts and revelations and considerations that we had not originally talked about in our first episode. So it's going to be one of those or the other, and we want to dwell on it for a little bit. But so you can expect one of those topics next week.
That's right. So without further ado, we will see you next week.